Hey, good morning to you, Dr. Prodigal. It's kind of early in the morning now. I'm going to reach down and get my little drink here because I need my caffeine this morning. I wanted to come to you about reviewing your initial call. Why am I saying this? This morning, I woke early, awakened, I would say by the Lord, because I wouldn't get up during this time if I didn't have to. But he began speaking to me, and I said, Lord, where do I adjust? And then I picked up something that I read daily, a devotional, and it was speaking about adjusting and going back and reviewing and things. And that's where he was speaking to me about. So then I picked this up, and here it is. So everyone should have, like, I would call it a battle plan of sorts, where you can go back to, revise. It's like your plan that God spoke to you specifically. Mine came on March 25th, 1979. I can remember it. How I got saved was was stationed in Hawaii. Little private, no car. Ain't a whole lot of money as a private back then. I think as a month I may have made like $600 or $700 for the whole month, and that's 30 days and 20 hours a day. But needless to say, I met a little young lady. I'm trying to remember where I even met. I think I met her like at the little club or something that was there, the one I could walk to, of course. And we started talking. So we got close and everything. I started dating. You want to call it that? She'd have come pick me up in her grandmother's car. I didn't even have a car at that time. And I would listen to her. She said her grandmother was, how did she put it? She said, my grandmother's Pentecostal. I feel so bad because I remember that day I said, is that a disease? Because I was not raised and all that. And she said, no. And she explained it to me. I said, oh, then my people are Baptist then. Okay, here we go. We got this. I'm Pentecostal, I'm Baptist and all this, and home church and all this stuff. We know how to talk that lingo. So I thought about it. I said, okay. So I said, well, will I meet her? Because I was like, okay, this is a black person living in Hawaii. It was just unheard of me even going to Hawaii for that matter during that time of my development in life. She said, yeah, so we ended up in that very quickly. I mean, I should have after a while. Her granddaughter's come to get some grown dude in her car. So I got there and they embraced me. Everything was cool. And Tutu looked at me. We called her Tutu because Tutu means grandmother in Hawaiian. So she said, you going to church with me? Okay. All right. I'll go to church with you one day. She said, no, you're not going to see Paul and one of you go to church with me. Okay. Now, mind you, only thing I knew was me and my family, we would like seeing me Christians. Christmas, Mother Day, Easter, we in church. At least me. You know, I don't know what happened before me, but at least me, that's as far as that went. After Catholic school, there wasn't a whole lot there. So, I arranged. I said, I'll come. But Paula had started telling me about that Pentecostal thing. Okay. So I said, I'll come this Sunday, maybe. But I'm not going up front. I'm not getting saved. I'm not giving you no money. Nobody no money up in there. Because I had been to a Baptist church, and they made it, and I liked the offering thing, and it looked good and all that, but you don't put the right thing in there. I done seen deacons stand there and kind of give you a look like, okay, go in the other pocket, like they roughing you up or something. So she said, doesn't care. But don't call him once you ready to go to church with me. Hey, I can't call. That's my only lifeline because I keep me a roll of dimes in the barracks. Didn't say nothing. Okay. Went on back to the barracks. Next day, called. Just no Paula gonna answer. Tutu never answered the phone. She picked up the phone and then he said hello. She said, I told you, don't call until you go to church. I said, okay. So, needless to say, I agreed at that time to go to church. Came and picked me up. She said, now we can go out. But we can only stay out, and I think it was like until like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Sun's still up because you got to get ready for church. I'm like, what time y'all get ready for church? She said, let's just say that Tutu is making sure you're going to come. Little did I know at that time, that means Tutu's going to go into prayer. So I found out all this after the fact. Again, I still don't understand what Pentecostalism is, and I don't understand nothing. The only thing I know, Baptist church, Catholic church, whatever, that's it. Church with different people. Oh, of course, Jehovah's Witness for the other side of my family. So I said, okay, not a problem. The next day, this guy, and I'm not going to throw anybody's name out there on this one, but this was me. This little guy called Rooster in the barracks. Like I said, I didn't have a car. This time, Paula wasn't going to come get me. But this is how God would use something of your desire to put you in position. So the guy was coming through, and the little guy, I'm 6'1", Rooster had to be about 5'2", 5'3", maybe. He was a real short guy. But he had this big chopper motorcycle with the big, handlebars that was like way up here and everything. So I said, Rooster, I'll give you $2 for gas, because now you got to think gas was like maybe 30 cents a gallon, or maybe I would say even maybe 50 on Hawaii at that time. So I was going to fill up his motorcycle. He ride all day long on the beach. He said, where you going? So I told him about, I'm going to see my girlfriend Paula. I'm going to. He said, can I go with you? I was like, no, this working out for me. It's amazing that God has always sent a witness with me at all times for me and my journey and at my milestones. So we're getting ready to go down the highway. He dresses up, I dress up. I never forget San Francisco rag shop suit. Now, I did have a couple of clothes. I didn't have too far to wear it, but I had my suit on. It was a jean suit with embroidered in my bell bottoms. Yeah, I go back to the bell bottom taste and Stack Hills. So we're going down the highway. Before we get on the motorcycle, this is how much the enemy will try to get in your mind and to tarnish things. We took a hit of acid. About 10 minutes before we got on the bike to go on the highway. And for you to familiar with Hawaii, it was H1 and H2 at that time. It wasn't H3. And we were going down to Cahill Park Terrace. I loved that place. I loved it. People didn't like it, but I loved it. The people, everything else. About a third of the way there, it kicks in. Now, we just as lit as we can be. We get there and we are just lit. Am I telling you this because I want to do anything other than just to make you aware? That's all. Because this is how ignorant I was. I'm getting ready to go into the house of God, lit up on an acid high. LSD. So we're going there and look at Tutu, and she's saying, okay, I'm thinking we're going to ride a motorcycle and follow the car. Because she had this, oh my gosh, it was a nasty green Plymouth station wagon. It was comfortable. That's the same car that I, been riding with her granddaughter, but I don't want to go to church like that. I don't know where I got all this from that, to go to church, you got to put your car and hide it and get you a Cadillac or something. She said, no, pile in. So me, Rooster, Paula's daughter, she had a daughter at that time, Tutu, and this gentleman named Brother Harris. He was so cool, down to earth. And he began teaching me. I wish I could have spent more time with Brother Harris in my life. That's just what kind of person he was. We're going down to church the whole way. Brother Harris just singing. Because, now he had a story in himself. Maybe one day I'll tell it. But we just singing. They were singing. I didn't know what songs they were singing. I look over at Paula. And, I'm like, what's up with this? I'm wondering, are they going to kidnap me? I'm sure can't feel what's going on because I read about some crazy church people. And the way she explained Pentecostal to me, I knew a little bit about it from being at home. Just a little bit. I didn't know what to call it, but I knew a little bit about it then once she explained it. So we get out. Me and Rooster, we lagging back. They're walking up. I said, Rooster, something ain't right. And we both sit there laughing about it because we still lit up. I was like, something ain't right. So we get to the door of the church, and all of a sudden it just leaves me. All that, whatever you call it, that feeling of wherever I was at in my mind, it left me. And I'm like, ooh, what is this? Well, now that feeling of something just not being right, or something is heavy. You talking about the weight of the Lord that was in that place. Well, at that time, I didn't know anything about, women preachers and people against that. The pastor, she was an older woman. I believe she was black. I know she had beautiful white hair. And she had her robe on. Well, when she stood up and raised up her hands, and everybody stood up, so I've been in a Catholic church and Catholic school, so let me stand up too. Rooster says he wanted to come with me because he wanted to turn over a new leaf. It is, I didn't even know I needed a leaf. So we're sitting there, and I've already told them going down there, I ain't going up front, I ain't getting saved, and I ain't giving no money. That was my declaration of going to this church. Well, before I left, so we can cut, spoiler alert on that one. I had been up front, I was laying on the ground, crying, snot, and everything else, and I was broke because I gave all my money in the offering, and I was good and safe. So, as the woman did that and she called, and I can remember so plainly, I've been in churches, Baptist churches, where they do the choir walk, but for some reason this choir came down and I still hear the song, Prayer Changes Things, and they had it. My mama, no, the old school, they just got to rock, and they got to rock. And before long, I know I was rocking. I told you I ain't been to church hardly, other than, special occasions. I'm rocking. I'm like, okay. And then I started clapping. Now coming in, remember that I sobered up immediately. And I said, okay, now what's going on? Well, the woman began preaching, and she was walking all up in my life, my business, my hopes, my dreams, my fears, my shortcomings, everything. She walked all through there. Like, she wrote my story up into that day. I still didn't understand the Holy Spirit at that time. So, again, I'm not going up front. I ain't getting saved. They gave an invitation. I remember shaking. And in this invitation, she said, when you come up front, it will leave you. I don't remember what it was, but I can remember I went to my right, and I had to go across a few people because I came in this side around the back, and I'm trying to sit on this side and slide down by the wall and get on out as soon as Tutu turned her head. That wasn't happening. Tutu sat on the other side of me. She was the gatekeeper. That day, Paula was on the wrong side of me. She was supposed to be on the one on the aisle. See, I could step over. Nah, that day, Tutu guarded the gate. So I couldn't go out that way. When they gave that altar call, and I knew that God was calling me, and it had nothing to do with the preacher or anything else, I just knew that this God that she was speaking of was calling me. And that's all I wanted, was him to call me. I wasn't worried about no one else. Whoa, boy. Even in your initial call, God will use you as an evangelist to bring other people. He's done it with me more than once. So, I get up there, and I remember the lady prayed and just laid her hands on me. Whatever that was that she was talking about was going to leave me, it left me, because when I was coming down the aisle, I heard something scream. And I turned around and looked, and my girlfriend was looking at me. Tutu was just rocking. Brother Harris had his hands up. And then I turned back around, and Rooster was right behind me. It was like a race. We was trying to get to the altar. Don't know what to expect, but we got to get there. Well, later on, I found out Rooster had been raised in a Pentecostal church in Kentucky or Tennessee, wherever he was from. I think it was from Tennessee, maybe. So I was like, okay, I'm not sure what this is. When I regained my composure, and on the way, it was a gentleman there, and if anyone knows of this family, and especially this gentleman, I have been trying to find him for, it would be 42 years now, to tell him that seed of the Bible he sowed in me. And what has become of that one seed. He said, the Lord said, give you this Bible. I didn't know what was going on. His name is Michael McZeal. I was in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. I don't remember what that town was, and I don't even remember what the name of the church or the pastor was. Nothing. But I remembered him from there. He gave me the Bible. The Bible was for Father's Day. That was 79. So I'm thinking it may have been Father's Day 78. His wife, Maisha, gave it to him for Father's Day. He gave it to me March 25th, 1979. So that's the only connection I have with that aspect of it. But in there, I remember the Lord had me put my finger in a place and then the program there. And at one place, it was Isaiah 61. And I remember getting home to Paula's house. The rooster found out that it was a different culture there. He was pretty new. The Samoan people had moved his motorcycle out the way for him so wouldn't nobody bother because they knew he was with us and we were all family. He wondered where his motorcycle was and the guy told him, bro, we bring it right back. He went and they carried his motorcycle back down the steps. And he was looking, I said, don't ask, I'll explain later. Well, I'm standing on what they call a lanai, which is like a balcony. And I'm reading Isaiah 61. Well, I remember getting to the 6th verse in that and it said, ye shall be called ministers. And I heard, I am calling you. Now, I'm just getting saved and you calling me too? I remember looking up and saying, oh, hell no, Lord. I remember saying that. And am I saying that to offend anybody? No, I'm telling you exactly what me and my call in my walk was. And I read the 7th verse, and then I closed it, but it was burning in my mind. And then this whole time, I'm not around Paula like we normally be. I be grinning all up on everything else. We want to hold hands, we want to walk. Oh, you look so good when you just fell down and bumped your head. Oh, you still cute. Yeah, even with that knot on your head, you're a unicorn now. Okay, it was just a young love, the puppy love. Well, Paula came outside, and she looked at me. And she said, you're glowing. I said, what do you mean? She said, you have been glowing since church. There's this glow upon you. You know what it was? I'm in Hawaii. Everybody should be glowing in Hawaii in the middle of the day. And I understand what she meant now. And I had told God that I was going to be his minister, and I felt him laugh. People say, oh, I heard him. I felt him laugh. Like, okay, you'll be back. Needless to say, a couple of weeks later, I was in Aniwetok, Marshall Islands. That was my island of Patmos, and it's time to start purging and pruning me. More purging than enough. Because remember, this is the fool that decided to go up in the house, a real house of God, high. And that ain't work. God squared that right away. So, I didn't say a whole lot. Nah, it's just more than I need my caffeine. So I didn't say a lot. And I really wondered, Lord, what am I doing? Since you say that you're real, and I'm seeing all of this and don't understand it, what's going on? I said, if you're real, and you're going to change my life, please do not pray that prayer unless you for real. A few weeks later, I was at Aniwetok, Marshall Islands. Paul and I ended up breaking up. Eventually, I did get to come back home for a couple of days. And then after that, we just pretty much broke up. And some other things came out. I'm like, okay, now I prayed this. I didn't get put in no monastery or anything in Aniwetok. Quite the contrary. I got put in a hellhole. I got put in a place with 1,800 crazy GIs where liquor was cheap, on a little deserted island in the middle of the South Pacific. It was wild. That's where I went. And that's where the purging began. In retrospect, I didn't know it was purging at that time. So, the wild part about it was that as God was molding me, he was also teaching me. So I began reading over again. I kept that Bible. Matter of fact, I could walk right over here on this shelf right behind me and get it. I have it airtight now. So I kept reading that Bible. Still doing crazy stuff now. I didn't, all of a sudden, I'm just glory to God and I'm just have a Bible and everything. No. I was still being purged. I had a lot to be purged of. I mean, I was class A1 heathen. And as I began to read, I remember there was one guy. His name was Wild Willie. And that's the whole story in itself. But he was a very strong Christian. Even though he acted crazy, he didn't do anything like that was crazy. But he just had a comedic way about welcome you to the island. That was his mission field. We would talk a little about the Bible, and he left, and then the chaplain left. So now I'm on my own. What do I do? And this is where you need to join yourself to a church that's going to teach you, not preach at you all the time, but teach you as well. And not no superficial teaching, but give it to you line upon line, precept upon precept, and continually digging down to deepen your foundation and to expand your roof. So he left, and that was the end of that. So my walk began like that. After that, yeah, I don't care what period I went through, even 2 periods of backsliding. Wow, that's in itself a teaching. But I got to a certain point, and I wanted more. I mean, I could read the Bible myself, but it wasn't making sense. Brother Harris used to tell me about the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues. I was like, I heard that ain't this, and I ain't heard that ain't that. Well, he's right. Yes, I speak in tongues. Yes, I pray in the Spirit. Yes, I've been in here this morning like that. And I thank him for at least planting that seed of correct doctrine in my ear. Not what I was told and what, I experienced with some religious people growing up that probably scared me. Well, I go over and I read Isaiah 61 every so often. Or the Lord might just say this morning, I want you to go back and read Isaiah 61. That was perfect for me. This morning what stood out to me that I want to bring to you, besides the fact of my salvation experience that was very peculiar, but yet very powerful. In the King James Version, Isaiah 61 says, and I'm just going to concentrate on a couple of verses, maybe 3. Because that's what he had me this morning. Even though I went back over my full call and I went back over a full passage, he'll bring you back and say, deal with just this. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord have anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim the liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called the trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. And then they go on in verse 4 and saying, and they shall build up the old ways. They shall raise up the former desolate. They shall repair the waste cities, the desolation of many generations. So where I'm at with that, I'm careful how I speak to people. Just recently, a family member transitioned. A tragic situation, not violent, but something that wasn't expected from a younger person. And when I say younger, to me, younger is 40 and below. So this person just passed. Boom, right there. I was mentioning to someone about that. Well, the first thing it said, was he saved? I don't know. I know he heard the gospel because he met me, and I would plant seeds. So I know that he was there, and then I found out later on, that there were many people in his life that, led him in the presence of the Lord or gave him information. So it's not up to me to judge that person right then, or whether he's in heaven or hell. Don't know. I'm not going to get into any destination arguments or debates with someone. But what I am saying with that is that I ministered to a family member, very close with him. It gave them much comfort. But now, today, I'm reading this when I'm led back to my initial call to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, which is now, at all times, and the day of vengeance of our God, which we're explaining. There will be a second coming to comfort all that mourn, period. To comfort all that mourn. So the gentleman, very staunch, he calls himself conservative, but I don't think that's it. Fundamentalist would be more in line with them than just conservative, but fundamentalist, like I will cut off my arm. He's one of these brothers that if it had been Abraham, the last thing he heard was kill Isaac, so he ain't turning around looking at the goat or the ram in the bush. He gonna kill Isaac. We would have never had a promise, and God had to raise up Isaac too. You should have told him he's gone to hell. Well, that's not comforting all that mourn. I do know, in my experience ministerial, that a homegoing service, funeral, whichever you want to call it, or whatever you want to call it, is the most fertile ground for evangelism. Why? Because our mortality is right there. It's in front of us. It's surely in front of us. So I explained to him that no, I would not do anything like that. Well, then he proceeded to attack me that I was going to hell because I wasn't doing the work of an evangelist. And then that's when I remember speaking to him about, I'm just to comfort them that mourn this time and proclaim this is God's year, which is always what I do. Now you got to tell them he in hell. Well, I was confident. We can tell someone a truth, and it ain't no love with it. It's just dangerous. Because if you come at someone like that, anybody within earshot, they don't want to hear nothing about the God you just preached that has nothing for them in this time. Yes, you have some truth, but it's a pound of nonsense with it that's going to cause no one to come to the Lord. And this morning as he led to me and I got to there, and I thought about it, it's in verse 2. He said to comfort all that mourn. He didn't make a distinction at that time, even though he was writing to the Jewish people. Guaranteed there was some people that was short, from their walk and their responsibility with God. He said all. But then the next verse is what I want to present. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. So God was saying through the prophet to comfort all that mourn. And then the next part he said, but I got a special comfort for those in Zion. So this is what we have to be very careful whenever we are, we're taking doctrine and we want to beat somebody in the head with it. First we have to say, well, how would God say it? Or what would God say? And then we work from there. The reason why I don't get into, after someone has passed away, they've transitioned, now that's all in God's hands. That's not mine. And, will I find someone and say he's in hell? I'm not going to ever say that. Is there hell? There is a hell. And there are going to be people in hell. But there ain't going to be none there if I can do what I know God just told me to do. Because each one of us does something to snatch someone out of hell before they get there. But for someone that transitions already, I saw something that helped me in a case of showing someone of suicide, where they saying if a person dies by suicide, they going straight to hell and all that. No. Jesus said he gave us the keys to the kingdom. But then later on he said he kept the keys to death and the grave. That's 3 doors. Gave us the keys to the kingdom. He kept the keys to death and the grave. I don't know about anybody else, and I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just giving you how I'm thinking. Death and the grave. I have never seen 2 gates back to back. I've seen 2 doors back to back. Security door, you open one, you got to open up, then you can go through. But these were huge doors. But I've never seen gates back to back like that. Now, prison, Yeah, but they're still not back to back. You go through one, it locks, come to another one, it locks. So between that time, God has already said wherever we at, He's there. So God is there. I'm sure when we get to heaven or in His presence, because everyone thinks we're going to live in heaven, it's a whole different teaching. But I'm sure there's going to be some people there that we didn't think was going to be there. Why? Because of that gap that I'm looking. So now as I'm comforting all those that mourn, and then I give that extra and comfort those who mourn in Zion, and then it gives all the other things that come with that, I'm at peace. Because I've comforted those that mourn, and then later on, if they need to mourn again, I hope that they're going to mourn in Zion, and then I can give them the extra that God said and look to Him to receive it. But if we're going to beat people down with the gospel, then I got to take you back again on that judgment thing. Matthew 7, don't be judging with that unless you're ready to be judged by the same thing that you do. So every once in a while, God gives us signature scriptures at different points in our life. I can probably point to, is it a whole bunch of them? No. Somebody tell you that He give you a different one every day, and that's what He kind of whack. He began with this one, and I've always held that. Again, I'm looking for Michael McZeal, that was married to Maisha in Hawaii in 1979. And I want him to see that I have the seed, and not only have I have the seed, but he must see just a portion of the harvest from that. Because I don't even see the full harvest from it. But if he must see the portion of the harvest in me, then that may encourage him, because at times God will use that you didn't even know, and that's the encouraging part about it. So here we are, 42 years later, 42 years later, that I'm still grateful for this man. I'm still looking at that same call, Isaiah 61, 1 through 7, from March 25th, 1979. There's not a time that I read that God won't open something else, and then this jumps up. No, you're supposed to comfort all people. But those who mourn in Zion, then you comfort the ones who mourn in Zion with this, and this goes with it. So how can I tie that into the New Testament? Galatians 6 and 10, I believe it is. Do good to all men. And then you have another thing with it, especially those of the household of faith. That's exactly what God is saying there. Comfort all men, but especially those who are born in Zion. We have to begin to allow in this season the Holy Spirit to show us different than what we know. He's going to give us different scriptures throughout our life. Another one, Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God. It's amazing how God will give you another huge nugget of wonderfulness right after you done backslid and you coming back with like the prodigal, Dr. Prodigal, your head down. If I could just be a servant in the house, I know what's happening. Well, I'll go back a little more. Bruce and I both were sent to Annie Top, same time. He said he was going to be a bodybuilder, little wiry guy, and he started really working out. I spent all my time trying to find someone to teach me the Bible because I didn't understand it. I stayed 9 months. I was in the womb of the fish, because what else getting there but a fish or a bird? For 9 months I was in that place. Did I grow spiritually? At the time I didn't think I did. But in retrospect now, 42 years later, I had to go there. Even with the radiation and exposure and everything else and the stuff that's coming out, I had to go there. You talking about somebody in the pits of hell? If radiation, if it's described, the destruction is fiery, I thank God for placing me in a place that had that much fire. But my message today is to remember, go back to where God first spoke to you and say, give me more clarity on this, Lord. Your foundation goes deeper, and the structure goes higher, your roof gets stronger, more rooms in there, or if you want to call them gifts, functions, whatever. But allow God to do that, and never think that we are exclusive as Christians. Again, as he said there, to comfort all that mourn. He didn't make a distinction, but he did make a distinction as to how much comfort you would get compared to outside, compared to in. Galatians 6 and 10, the same thing. We must make the distinction. All means all. Do good to all men. But then there's a selection after that, especially those of the household of faith. So this is the day we need to make a distinction. We need to revisit the old landmark where, all of this began. And then we need to come up and look at all of the steps and the situations that came and see what a mighty God we serve. Has it been, peaches and cream? No. But I wouldn't trade this for nothing. Like I said, 2 terrible periods of backsliding, just rebellious. I was more or less mad with God because of the people of God. I represented God with them, and I had to learn to get away from that. As I saw that, then I was able to move. So we must make the distinction of, number one, where was I at when God gave this to me? Number 2, where am I at now since he's given it to me? Number 3, what new revelation has he given me that I can now put that into application? And number 4, am I including everyone with my saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, mighty burning fire self? Am I including everyone in the love that I give to agape? I'll revert again to the gentleman. I didn't have no business saying nothing to them, but they all going to hell if they didn't accept the Lord and they ain't saved. And reading the King James Version of the Bible, the Authorized 1611 version. All I did was embracing. And I don't say sorry for your loss. If I know the person was saved, and I know they walk with the Lord, I'll say he's now or she is now in our future. If I didn't know whether the person is saved now, I said, the peace of God which surpasses all understanding, I pray that his peace come upon you and know that this person could be in your future. I haven't said that I know that they're there. I said they could be, because it's going to depend on 2 things. Death in the grave, that door, and this person's decision. If this person chooses the Lord and that person chooses the Lord, they're together. If one chooses and not the other, well, they should be together, but they're not. So I'm very careful, and I'm asking for more wisdom in the way I say things and the timing. And I think we should all do the same. But let us go back and make these distinctions and what we're supposed to do, how we're to do it, who we do it with. And now I think I'll go put on some coffee and maybe something small to eat. I'm enjoying this season, getting ready for the month in the sign. Yes, I am, Pastor. I'm enjoying this. God bless you, Dr. Prodigal. And I'm going to wonder, I've got some new glasses. I like them. But somebody tells me that they're a little dark. Okay, no. I'm not still doing LSD or nothing like that. It's just that probably some light in them. God bless y'all. This is just such a wonderful season. It's a wonderful season. God bless you. I can't wait until the Lord wakes me up again this early. Holler at you later.